We'll see. Is JD having fun?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Is he enjoying it? Good.
Just make him work.
He does.
Just make him work hard. He wants to go to the Marine Corps, so just
Good deal.
yell at him a lot. Get you.
I think you and I have done that so much. They just do this to us now.
Yeah, they pretty much tuned us out.
Yeah.
I think they tuned us out after the first year.
Yeah.
There it is.
Oh yeah, I know.
I know Jonathan did.
I know now when I say something, you know, they kind of know what mood I'm in, but I'll catch their eyes and they're usually like smiling or laughing, trying to hide something.
I just expected that.
Yeah.
Okay, at 6 o'clock, we'll stand for the pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Reminder to please turn off your cell phones and turn your microphones on, please. Andrea, could we have roll call, please?
Mayor Bain.
Here.
Counselor Baker.
Here.
Counselor Becker.
Here.
Counselor Quinlan.
Here.
Counselor Scalisi.
Present.
Counselor Sherman. Here.
Okay, visitors and delegation, we don't have anyone scheduled, so we'll move on to the public comment portion of our meeting. Citizens are invited to speak to council on items that are not on the agenda. There's a 3-minute time limit per person unless otherwise noted by the mayor. Please note that no formal action will be taken on these items during this time due to the open meeting law provision. However, they may be placed on a future posted agenda if action is required. Is there anyone that would like to speak to council? Please come up and give us your name and address, please.
My name is Justin Spradlin. I live at 422 Cameron. So I got a couple things I want to tell you today, so I'm going to kind of fly through it. First thing is, I live in the floodway, and I kind of wanted to give you guys some real world numbers of kind of, I know you were between a rock and a hard place on your vote on the floodplain stuff, but I kind of wanted to give you some numbers on what that's costing us as residents to try to do additions and things. So it cost me over $500 to have an engineer come out and do elevations, which basically told me that it would cost me another $5,000 to $8,000 to have him do a HECRAS study to basically tell me that I probably cannot build on my property because there's no way to guarantee no rise. So, and if I could, I would have to build it on pillars and have basically a trailer house underneath it with breakaway skirting. It would increase my flood insurance 3 times over to build in the floodway. So it's kind of some real world numbers. It's taken me almost a year to get this far, to find an engineer that would work with me, and it just happened to be the one that's doing the fire department. They're great, by the way. So it's pretty frustrating. It's definitely going to affect our property values when we can't build shops, houses, additions, houses. So it's something that I think definitely needs to be considered in the future. So the other thing I have is regarding Councilor Anderson, who's not here. I would like to pass a few of these out if that's okay. I only have 6 copies, so we'll be kind of selective.
We can share.
Okay. First page here is Janine basically admitting she has 5 different profiles on Facebook. Okay. She has a cop blocker page, kids page, public page, her bad girl page, and her business page. Okay. Next page I have where she basically denies that she's Richard Sherwood. All right. I'll get to what that is here in just a second, but I'm kind of going in chronological order. The third page is a page where Regan Benson actually calls Jenna Allen, which is somebody that's been harassing a lot of people on Facebook, actually sent me some very lewd things before I knew who it was and deleted them. But she basically confirms that that person is Janine. The next one is where Richard Sherwood basically says Dave Martin deserves to lead a parade of cops in a wooden box with a flag draped over it. So that's, I'm not confirming or denying that this is Janine, just giving you the facts, what we have. The next page is more basically wishing cops dead, especially Under Sheriff Martin. The page after that is another comment regarding a wooden box with a flag over it. The next page is really hard for you guys to read because the printer didn't print it very well. My copy is a little clearer, but if you actually lift the page, you can read it. One where she I'm not gonna read that one, you can read it. But also threatens that homeowner to come prepared to her house. The other one where she says she wants Dave Martin fired, resigned, or dead, he or she says that.
Okay. Yeah, okay, your 3 minutes are up.
Okay, but I'll let you guys finish reading the rest of those where it does confirm, where she admits to being, that individual admits to being Janine Anderson. So I'll give you guys that, let you do what you need. I have the digital copies if you need them.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak to council? Please give your name and address.
Okay. Jeanette Corbin, 16200 County Road, 28.5 Brush, Colorado. Kind of pick up where Justin left off. I do kind of have proof, I didn't bring copies, of Janine admitting that she is this Richard Sherwood. She says, Corbin, how did you find out? I'm ahead in the recall vote, but with your Cheyenne high school diploma, so she knows who I am, and obviously I know who she is. And if anybody wants copies of this, I can surely provide them, unless you gave them screenshots of. Okay. The other thing too is knowing that our petition did go through with the more than enough valid signatures. We also took time to put out a support page, which 108 people took the time out to come down to 2 days that we were down at the park and sign this. I have people from Brush, I have people from Fort Morgan, I have people from Akron, I have people from Greeley, I have people from Weldona, I even have a couple people from Boise, Idaho. So it's too bad Janine's not here to see how much support there is, other than not being able to vote for her to be recalled, that she is not wanted on the city council. That's about all I have. And I hope Janine, I don't know how many times she's been absent this year, but it seems like an awful lot. I hope she has a good excuse. All right, thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to council? Okay, moving on to the approval of minutes. Everybody's had a chance to see the minutes from the regular meeting of July 23rd. Do we have a motion to approve or deny the minutes as submitted, or any corrections? Ask for corrections first. No corrections? Okay, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
And so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, the minutes stand approved as submitted. Moving on to number 5, second reading of ordinance number 873-18, an ordinance amending Article 10 of Chapter 2 of the Brush Municipal Code related to historic preservation. I have Karen.
Good evening. As the mayor said, this is the second reading of an ordinance, and as presented at our first reading, it's going to do a couple of things to help facilitate obtaining some additional grant funds for historic buildings here in the Brush area, within the city of Brush. We had worked with Mark Rodman at History Colorado in terms of what kind of changes we would need to make to our ordinance to make us more eligible to become what's called a certified local government. And it's that status that potentially opens up additional grant funds. And so what you have in front of you is that ordinance that shows those changes. And primary things to note is that it includes the addition of 2 alternate board members, criteria for designating a historic structure at a local level, clear reference to the U.S. Secretary of the Interior standards for treatment of historic properties. That's the industry standard that you looked at, or that needs to be looked at when trying to decide whether or not something should be designated. And then the ability to potentially revoke a designation in the event that characteristics of that structure have changed, so that the reasons for which it was originally designated potentially no longer exist. So I also want to note the Historic Preservation Board on July 19th reviewed the ordinance and has recommended that council adopt this in terms of what's presented in front of you. So questions?
Okay, thank you, Karen. Do we have a motion to approve or deny on second reading and publish in the newspaper by title only, ordinance number 873-18?
I make a motion to approve ordinance number 873-18.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
A second.
Okay, we have a second. Any discussion? Andrea, roll call vote, please.
Mayor Bain,
Yes.
Counselor Baker,
Yes.
Counselor Becker,
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan,
Yes.
Counselor Scalisi,
Yes.
Counselor Sherman. Yes.
Okay, moving on to 5B, release of development agreement associated with Homestead Meadows 3 Phase 1 subdivision. That's also Karen.
At your July 23rd work session, we talked a little bit about this situation and what's going on and what's required. Specifically in 1998, a development agreement was approved as part of the final plat for this subdivision. And this area has been referred to by a couple different names over time. In the original development agreement, it's talked about as Westwood Mobile Home Subdivision. Nowadays on the plat, you see it as Homestead Meadows 2 Phase 1 subdivision. A lot of folks know it as that upper part of Jennifer Circle way over on the west side of town. But when the final plat was approved, a development agreement was also recorded, and that was the contractor agreement that laid out everything that needed to be constructed by way of public infrastructure. All of that infrastructure was completed in 2002, and this development agreement has remained out there on the county clerk and recorder's records. And so whenever somebody does a title search on the balance of that property to the south, this comes up as just being something that's out there and still sitting there and tagged to the property as a whole. And since the obligations have been met under that development agreement, City Council is now being asked to do what's called a release of that agreement. So that's the document you have in front of you this evening. It relates just to that original development agreement from 1998. In the future, the balance of that project that has yet to be developed, when somebody comes through with a final plat application, there'll be a new subdivision improvement agreement in front of you at that time that would talk about any public infrastructure that would need to be constructed as part of that new phase of the development. So there's no longer a use for this old development agreement. And so with that, staff is recommending that council authorize the mayor to sign this and that we get it recorded in the Morgan County Real Property Records.
Okay. Questions? All right. Do we have a motion to approve or deny the release of development agreement?
We approve the release of development agreement.
Second.
Second. Discussion? Can I ask you, Karen, when did you say that development agreement was originally
98.
Oh, okay, 98, okay. Okay, any other discussion? Andrea, roll call vote, please.
Counselor Baker,
Yes.
Counselor Becker,
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan,
Yes.
Counselor Scalisi,
Yes.
Counselor Sherman,
Yes.
Mayor Bain.
Yes. Moving on to 5C, Central School Support Letter. Andrea.
Okay, the Brush Chamber Foundation has asked for a support letter, from the city of Brush as they're applying for various different grants. And Melody is here if you want to explain a little bit more, but in essence, it's just that the city supports their efforts to, refurbish the building, and this first grant that they're trying to obtain is just to kind of secure the building, the windows, the roof, that type of thing. So that's the letter.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve or deny preparing a support letter for Central School?
I'd move that we prepare a letter approving Central School letter.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Melody, thank you. Okay, if there's no other discussion, roll call vote, please.
Counselor Becker,
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan,
Yes.
Counselor Scalisi.
Yes.
Counselor Sherman. Yes. Mayor Bain.
Yes.
Counselor Baker.
Yes.
Moving on to 5E, or 5D, I'm sorry. Appoint Karen Goldman as the hearing officer for recall hearings. Andrea.
Okay, I did approve the initial sufficiency of the recall petition, which basically says that they did obtain the required number of signatures, and there was approximately 162 signatures, and 31 of those were not allowed for either couldn't read the handwriting, they weren't registered to vote, or, you know, various reasons, so, but they still did obtain the number of signatures. So the next phase is we wait for a protest period, and I'm asking council to consider if we do have a hearing that Karen Goldman be named as the hearing officer, which would remove me from that duty.
That's only if there is a protest?
Only if there is a protest.
Where is she from?
She is retired deputy city clerk of Aurora. She has extensive election experience. She also served as administrative to the state senate for 20 years and is kind of our go-to person for any election questions for city clerk. So, and she agreed to do it at no charge. So, kind of a professional courtesy. So, it's kind
And
of
she's very
win-win.
experienced.
Very experienced, yes.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve or deny appointing Karen Goldman as a hearing officer?
I move we approve Karen Goldman as the hearing officer for a recall hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Counselor Quinlan?
Yes.
Counselor Scalisi?
Yes.
Counselor Sherman?
Yes.
Mayor Bain?
Yes.
Counselor Baker?
Yes.
Counselor Becker?
Yes.
Okay, moving on to 5E, approve the consultant for the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Lance?
About 3 weeks ago, we got our RFPs back for the master plan that we plan on doing over the next 8 or 9 months. It's the master plan that is being funded mostly by Great Outdoors Colorado and also the Joslyn Needham and Pettis Foundations. The city also did put some conservation trust money into it too. The total budget was $70,000. We ended up receiving 2 RFPs back from from 2 different firms. They were both within $200. I do, however, recommend the one that's $200 higher, which is $69,999. Green Play. They have a lot of experience with Northeast Colorado. They actually did Sterling's master plan. They've helped Fort Morgan with their master plan too, so they're relatively familiar with the area, and I just think that would be a good fit for us. I do have their proposal here in front of me, and also the other companies too, if anybody would like to look through them or anything like that. But we're kind of excited to get it going, and starting to put some committees together within the community to see where we want to be with recreation over the next 5-10 years. So with that, I recommend that we accept Green Play's request for proposal, and so I can start the ball rolling as soon as next week.
Is that gonna include like the middle school area?
It's going to include all of our parks and open space areas, so the middle school area too. Yeah, because that was part of when we wrote the request, we talked a little bit about the school district, us needing some more open space, and the middle school being one of those areas.
So this would encompass the pool?
Everything.
Everything that we would like to do?
Yeah, trails, everything that we want within Parks and Recreation, not only our facilities, but also our programs. So it'll be a completely, they're gonna look at everything then.
Okay.
What was the amount, Lance?
$69,999.
$200 difference between the two.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Lance? Okay, look for a motion to either approve or deny Green Play as the consultant for the Recreation Master Plan.
I move we approve Green Play for his consultant.
Have a motion on the floor?
Second?
Second? Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Counselor Scalisi?
Yes.
Counselor Sherman?
Yes.
Mayor Bain?
Yes.
Counselor Baker?
Yes.
Counselor Becker?
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan?
Yes.
And would anybody like to take a look at it just to kind of see like an overview of what because I have several of these, but would someone like to pass it around or anything?
Lance, there'll be a series of meetings with the community and all
Yeah.
those things, right?
Yeah, there are stakeholders plus just various community meetings. We'll probably try to get a group of involved community members within the Parks and Recreation programs that will actually do a lot of the I'll be there, of course, but getting some outside ideas and
The
everything.
Stakeholders, are you gonna need a council person or two?
Yes, we will, and so.
We'll see about the mayor appointing a couple.
Okay, that'd be perfect. I know I already talked to Laura McConnell a little bit from the library and some of them too, because I know we've been
School
trying to,
district as well.
in the school district, right?
I think that's good. We'll get plenty of community involvement and ideas. and
Yep,
stuff.
yep, I think it'll be great. All right, thank you.
Lance. Okay, moving on to 6A, Finance.
I make a motion that we approve city expenditures from July 23rd through August 13th of 2018 totaling $1,157,381.84.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve or deny the expenditures?
I make a motion to approve expenditures. It was a motion.
I'm sorry.
I'll second that.
That was a motion. Your second? You would like to be second?
Sure.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Counselor Sherman?
Yes.
Mayor Bain?
Yes.
Counselor Baker?
Yes.
Counselor Becker?
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan?
Yes.
Counselor Scalisi?
Yes.
Okay, moving on to Finance. Joanne? I'm sorry. The mayor's asleep tonight.
I just have one quick item. As you may have noticed on your agenda, Scott Zalbo from Lauer, Zalbo and Associates did come and meet with the Finance Committee this evening and did give the city of Brush a clean bill of health with our 2017 audit.
That was quick, thank you. Police, Corey?
No report.
No report. Community Development, Karen?
Monty had asked me to talk briefly about source of liability claims or filing a claim or even a property loss claim. In the state of Colorado, as set out by state statute, local governments are largely immune. There are, or have governmental immunity. There are, I think it's 5 or 7 specific areas where we waive that immunity as spelled out in statute, but for the most part, local governments have that governmental immunity. So when somebody experiences some kind of a loss, the best approach is for them to contact my office, and they actually put together a letter saying what happened and what it is that they would like to see as a result of that particular loss. And we turn that over to the insurance company, since they're the ones who have on staff really that professional expertise and deal with that governmental immunity statute all the time and can run that analysis for us in terms of whether or not we have any type of responsibility or liability. When you talk about significant acts of weather, tornadoes and such like we had recently, that falls into that category of an act of God, and we do have immunity in that scenario. But if somebody has experienced a loss and they feel it's a result of something the city has done, like I said, they're welcome to contact my office and we'll help them navigate through that process. So that's kind of the very abbreviated version. Is there anything else that you needed me to touch on, or is that pretty
No,
much
I think that's really good, just so everyone understands that there is a claim. If anyone gets a question from council, just send them to Karen, so she knows
Yeah.
how to follow through with that. And can you give a quick report on the airport hangar?
We filed our own claim with our insurance company for damage to our property as a result of that tornado, and that falls more in the category of like a homeowner has experienced a similar kind of loss and they file against their homeowner's policy. And so the adjuster's been out, they looked at the hangar, they've reviewed a few other properties that experienced some damage, and since we really did lose the roof in its entirety off that hangar, we have provisions in our coverage that allow for a temporary enclosure, and so an engineer's even been out and looked at that, and there's a contractor on board to get that roof totally dried in, and that east wall where the big hangar door was, get that dried in for the short run. And the provisions are, what they're doing on the roof is specified by the engineer in terms of the setting of purlins and some decking and ice and water shield up there. So going forward, when we are ready to finish the repair, this is an interim step that we can build upon. So it's not like something you have to take back off and then start over again. So really trying to be wise with how we approached all that. So.
Thank you. Public Works, Lance, do you have anything else?
I do not.
Okay. Public Works, Dale?
Thank you, Mayor. As Felix used to always say, you got 5 minutes. So, it's
And
been
held 3 fingers up.
and held 3 fingers up. Well, as it's been an interesting last couple of weeks, we've removed quite a bit of storm debris, and so our cleanup is still continuing at this point. However, our branch pickup will end this Friday on the 17th, and so we've got the majority of everything picked up. There's still some piles out there, and we're aware of them. There's just the volume of it has just been enormous, and so we're working towards that end. Our next goal at this point is start looking at our street trees, the ones that the city own, and look for any hazards that might be up there, and there are some out there, and we've been fortunate that we've had the tree board go out and do surveys of our city trees and say, okay, this has a hazard and this has a hazard. We got that to one of the local tree trimmers today, and hopefully they were able to get started. I still got to follow up on that. And then finally, we finished the fog sealing over on Lincoln and Turner Street. It's a different product that we used this year from products in the past, and I like the way this went down a lot better. It seals it up much better, and it's a lot more aesthetic, and I think it'll hold up. So it's a little more expensive, but I think it's a better product. And so if you haven't been down through there to check it out, please feel
Dale,
free.
can you explain for council, because I've had this from the public, about the different types of preservation work you do on the streets?
Certainly.
And what each one does?
Mhm. We utilize 3 different preservation styles. The first one is a fog sealing, and what that does is it puts a fine coat of oil down on existing asphalt that doesn't really have a whole lot of surface damage, but what it does is rejuvenates that asphalt underneath it, because some of the asphalt does volatilize after years, and then UV rot kind of takes its toll on it as well. And so this puts just a fine layer of petroleum back over that. It helps seal a lot of the micro cracks. It's sort of like hand lotion for when you have chapped hands or something like that. The next type that we do is slurry seal, and it's a product that's got some sand mixed into it, and this is for those roads that have just a little bit more damage to it than just what fog sealing could take care of, sort of like a Band-Aid if you had a cut on your hand. And then we also do chip sealing, where we use a 3/8 rock mixed in with a petroleum product, and we put that over the roads where we typically see a lot of heavy traffic, things like truck traffic, main thoroughfares as such, that take a lot of that. And it works really good when you have a asphalt that's starting to gator back just a little bit. It holds it together for another 8 to 10 years, which is pretty good in a life of a street. Think of it as a cast for a broken arm. So those are the 3 types that we have. We do fog, which is a light coating, and then slurry, and then chip. Yes.
Where does this new one, box, fit into that?
Pardon?
Where does the new one, the one you just did on Lincoln and Twitter, fit into that list of 3 items?
It was fog.
It was fog.
It was fog.
Fog sealing, yes. And so,
Gotcha, thank you.
and I know it was an inconvenience for the residents of that street, and its timing wasn't exactly the best. However, I appreciate their patience with everything, and I hope they enjoy it.
You know, I think it was a testament to our street crew that this fog sealing was scheduled for, 2 or 3 days after the tornado?
Mhm.
And our guys were able to keep that schedule and get that work done with all the trees and limbs and everything, got it cleaned up, got people's cars out there and got it done, so
Right.
excellent job.
All right. Well, thank you. And, I'd like to reach out and just thank the citizens of the community for all the help that they did, as well as our neighboring communities that came down and helped everybody, as well as our own crews. I mean, just everybody who's been pitching in and doing a great job, and we do appreciate it. And I'd like to thank everybody.
Thank you, Dale.
Okay.
City Clerk, Andrea.
On August 20th at 10 a.m., you've been invited to Ebenezer's groundbreaking. And then at 5:30, we have a planning commission meeting here in council chambers. And then at 6:30 that same night, a priority setting retreat here in council chambers. We will have some food available for you in the conference room prior, so you can do that before coming into the meeting. And then the next regular meeting, August 27th. That's it.
Thank you. City Administrator, Monty.
Okay, just a few items. The first one is the fire department building, looking really good. If you drive by there, you'll see the steel structure frame going up. Everything is still going as planned. I believe each council person received a 2-week look ahead as far as the schedule, and we'll start emailing those whenever we get those. We'll forward them to you guys, unless you guys don't want to let me know. It's a really fine print. You want to read it
Yeah.
out on a computer, but it just gives you an idea of what's coming up the next few weeks. But everything seems going very well there. The priority setting meeting that we're having next Monday, the mayor and I are tomorrow going to meet and have a last minute discussion before we send out information to you guys. So by Wednesday you should receive some information for that. We're going to use a little bit different format this year, so we'll describe that in an email that you guys will receive. In regards to the tornado, we did do a disaster declaration. That puts us in a queue for potential funding for some of the work that we did. It needs to go to the state level and be approved, or the federal level. And a meeting with Corey Gardner last week and some state officials, they're still determining what level that disaster declaration is going to potentially be at. The mayor will talk about that more in a minute. Talked about the tree removal. One thing that Dale's crews are working on is mosquito spraying and mosquito trapping. So you'll see the trucks out a little bit more often if the weather permits. You know, we can't have it too breezy or you're just wasting the spray. And so larvicide will continue as well. There was a little spike in mosquitoes, but it seems to be leveling out a little bit. So hopefully that goes well. And one other thing that's coming our direction is the school district did request the city consider their water mains that go through the new school property, asking if the city would take ownership of those. And right now we're waiting for some more information back from JDS Hydro, our engineers, and then also we're waiting for the school district has some third-party inspections done on the lines. We'd like to see those reports, and then also some of the comments back from the state in regards to the project. Once we get that together, we'll get that information to a work session for council to consider and have discussions at that point in time. And that is all I have.
Okay, thank you, Monty. Are there any council reports?
Yeah, we have school starting next week, and I always appreciate the police officers coming into the buildings and talking to the kids and walking through. So I hope that continues with them coming through and just talking, and it makes us all feel safer. So appreciate that.
I wanted to comment on the library. I've been there 3 times now as liaison. They do a terrific job there. It's just amazing. It's enough for they're full of their staff. It's really great.
Yeah, they do a great job. Anyone else?
So in regards to the disaster relief, is that again through FEMA? Is that, or how is the tornado?
If it gets to a federal level, it'll be through FEMA. Right now, it's looking like there's a small possibility it might get to the state level for a state disaster declaration. And the state still gets some federal funding, but it's just a little different mechanism for us to receive it. And there's no guarantees in it at this point in time. We're just waiting to see. And we're keeping track of our expenses as well, just so potential of some cost recovery there.
Okay. Again, I want to compliment the city. I think they've done a great job getting all the debris off, because the volume was just almost unbelievable. I did contact Monty, but I did have a citizen wonder about big branches that had to be removed from, say, the property up to the front of the street. And I know the citizen said that the branches were too big for them to drag to the front, and so they're sitting in the alley. And so, I mean, I don't know, what if the citizen truly, if they don't have a chainsaw, and they really can't move them to the front, and then will the city eventually get rid of those, or, I mean, it's just something they need to wait on, do their best part? Just some clarification on that, please.
Certainly. One of the reasons that we asked to get the branches out to the street is for the speed of the pickup. We cannot safely load branches and leave piles and stuff like that in the alleyways, because there's overhead electrical, there's overhead cable, and everything has to be done by hand, so it's very time consuming. And so people that just leave their branches out in the alley are really defeating the purpose of trying to get rid of them as quick as possible. And so we've been focusing mainly on trying to get the branches out of the street, and it's this week that we've been working. Some of last week as well as this week, we're moving down the alleys looking for those large items, because it is very labor intensive, and it's not the safest thing to do because you have to try to do it by hand. And so there's a risk to our employees through either just strains or body injury, or again, overhead electrical lines and cables and such.
So
But
just being patient, you'll get
just
to
be
it.
patient, and we will try to make sure, hopefully by the end of the week, that we will have all our alleys cleaned as well.
Okay. And then in regards to, say, like, I've noticed that there are some still broken branches that are still just hanging on other branches. Do we need to call, like, code enforcement, or whose responsibility is that then if you have broken branches hanging on? I mean,
Talking
do we,
about the city's
not
trees,
cities'
or-
trees, now private citizens.
Because we did have our tree board going out. I think I talked to Karen, the tree board was looking to try to identify trees.
So
that
do we
may-
just contact, like, code enforcement then, or, I mean, another strong wind, and I'm sure these branches are gonna come down.
Yeah. When they're in a private tree, that really does fall into the purview of that homeowner being able to, or being required to take care of it. And if they're not getting to it, something code enforcement would need to follow up on. And then there's people like me with branches in my trees, and I'm on a list, but the contractors are working for other entities.
Right.
So I'm
Yeah, I know the
stuck.
resources have been
thin.
stretched, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so there's a lot of competition for that service right now too. So it may be a case if code enforcement follows up, they're able to say, no, I'm on somebody's list, or, oh, there's a branch up there, because, it gets a little easier to discern that, as they start to dry out and get crunchier.
Right.
It's easier to see what's truly broken as opposed to the stuff that's still vibrant and green. So if you've got specific addresses, we can certainly ask code enforcement.
Okay, all right. Thank you again, I think they've done a great job.
Anyone else? Well, I crafted some of my thoughts on paper here, and I knew I'd better do it that way. I wouldn't remember everything. As you know, Brush and surrounding communities were hit by 2 confirmed EF2 tornadoes on Sunday, July 29th, with wind speeds between 110 and 135 miles an hour. We were very fortunate these tornadoes didn't hit just 3 or 4 miles west of where they did. This event not only brought out the best in our community, but also the best in our surrounding communities. There are several entities we would like to thank that helped our efforts after this terrible storm. Fort Morgan graciously provided crews that helped our city crews for a couple days pick up some of the debris that we had. The city of Yuma reached out to us with offers of help. Many power companies assisted with restoring power after the storm. In Brush and the surrounding area, we had over 2,100 people without power. Someone mentioned to me that when these trucks rolled into town, it looked like the cavalry had arrived, and I can't argue with that. We were all very glad to see that. Our hospital was running on generator power for a short period of time. And our thanks really go out to the first responders. As always, they pitched in to help wherever they were needed. Thanks to the school district for providing space for shelter at the high school, and to the Red Cross and the Emergency Operations Center in Fort Morgan for coordinating that effort. 6:30 the next morning, I got a call on my cell phone from Laura McConnell, director of the East Morgan County Library. She called me bright and early saying that the library would be opening early, providing coffee, donuts, internet, phone charging capability to anyone needing help the morning after the storm. To our city staff and workers, your performance during this was admirable. I've had so many people coming up to me saying how good this city recovered after something like that, and it was great to hear. There were several long days of incredibly hard work put in by our entire team, and I've had people expressing how well they thought our cleanup efforts were handled. To our residents, I was not surprised to see our community out right after the storm starting to clean things up. When I was asked for an on-air interview, I panicked when I got out to the airport because the only people there were the reporters. And the first thing I thought of, I told reporters, I said, our people won't sit back and wait for help. We had neighbor helping neighbor and block helping block to get out from under the storm. Council would like to express special thanks to those who hauled limbs to the landfill on their own and those who managed to get them over by our recycling lot so that our crews could load them from that spot. That action took some of the burden off of our streets as well as providing additional help to our street crews. Senator Cory Gardner was traveling home and was waiting a storm out in Fort Morgan, and when he heard our airport had been hit, he drove directly there offering help and support to us. I signed a local disaster declaration on July 31st, and we're tracking costs of the damages. We've had reports that one of our sirens lost power during a storm, and we're looking into that and have a work session scheduled tonight on that subject. Senator Gardner also came back last week, as Monty mentioned, and he met with Monty and I and other local officials so that he could tour the damage to property and crops in the area. After having seen the damage this storm has caused, it should serve as a good reminder to us all that when the weather turns as quickly as this one did, get inside, get to a lower level if you have one, and tune into local media for information that's going on. Very proud of the city, I really am. Great job. Thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We're adjourned. We'll have a work session on sirens in just 2 minutes.